Hello again and welcome to Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson and this is my son Edwyn. How you doing today, son?
I'm fine, Daddy. How are you?
Good. Looking forward to our discussion today. It's been a while. A lot of things have happened since the last time we got together, and the saddest thing, the less fortunate thing, is the passing of one of the great sports icons, civil rights icons, Bill Russell, the former NBA player, one of the greatest players of all time, maybe the best shot blocker of all time. Died after just a really fulfilling life. This is someone I crossed paths with a few times. You see, he was a star at USF, grew up in Oakland, California, in a poor family, went to University of San Francisco, where he really developed his tenacity, his shot blocking ability, his ability to navigate the world. As we know, he won 11 rings with the Boston Celtics in 13 years, and then went on to just become a major ambassador for the game. I mean, here he is, certainly with the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, who said Bill Russell was a pioneer as a player, as a champion, as the NBA's first black head coach and activist, paved the way and set an example for every black player who came into the league after him, including me. The world has lost a legend. My condolences to his family. May he rest in peace. Edwyn, give me your thoughts on Bill Russell. I didn't see him play, neither did you, but we certainly were influenced by him. Tell me what your thoughts are about the great Celtic.
Well, he was one of the great athletes of all time, great black athletes of all time, especially in a time where we were going through segregation. So he was equivalent to Muhammad Ali and Jackie Robinson. He's the ultimate champion, obviously on the court with 11 rings, the most by any player in the history of basketball. But obviously just meeting at the summit with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali, as you can see in these photos. So it was more so off the court as well too, which was probably more important. And then he was the first black head coach in the NBA on top of that. So he's a pioneer. He paved the way for many black athletes, whether it's basketball, football, any sport, period. You can see he had a great relationship with Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal looked up to him. He went back and forth with Wilt Chamberlain on the court too also. So he's definitely one of the top rated players as well as centers too. Arguably the greatest rebounder, defender, shot blocker of all time. Also, you can see he took a knee too as well for Colin Kaepernick too back then. And again, he lived through segregation. So he went through it all too. Similar things that we are still going through today. Maybe not to the same level, but we're still going through it today. So he stood for that also. So more so a champion off the court than on too, on top of that. So I think we all, every race, every sport, no matter what you play, we all can relate to him and look up to him in a society.
That is so well said, Edwyn. A true Renaissance man and a mentor for a couple of generations of NBA players. You see him here, the ultimate shot blocker against one of the greatest players of all time, Wilt Chamberlain. I mean, I regret that I never got to see him play. He was a dominant force, and he was a great teammate. Back on that quote from Kobe Bryant, he said, when I played, I could score the ball, I could handle the ball, I could pass the ball. But what was really important in order for us to win, I had to look at my teammates and say, okay, these other guys are here to do that better. Therefore, I must allow them to do that. That is a great lesson for today's players, that teams win, not just great athletes, but teams win. As you see there, he mentored Kobe Bryant as well. And it's really unfortunate that, both of them have left us tragically, really within a short period of time. But both of them left a great legacy, not just on the court, but off the court. You see, he got the President's Award during President Obama's one of his 2 terms. So again, somebody just recognized across the board for his contributions to society, and he was an author too. He wasn't afraid to speak up. You talk about that summit. Initially, he was not in favor of Ali staying out of the draft. He tried to persuade Ali to serve his country, but once Ali made his decision, he was supportive. And that's what's important. It's not that we always will agree on something, but once a decision is made, we stand in unity. People often think of the civil rights movement as one big flowing effort, but there were a lot of disagreements behind the scenes. But once they stepped out, once they began to march, once they stepped to the microphone, the men and women behind the movement showed unity. And there are a lot of lessons we can learn from Bill Russell's life, but that is one of them, just to continue to speak out and to show unity for causes that are right. I wrote about this not long ago when I was the senior editor of Sports Illustrated, putting together the preview issue. I wanted to show the generational shift in shot blockers, and was able to get Bill Russell to pose with a young Alonzo Mourning, who was still playing for the Charlotte Hornets. I was able to get that done. The photo shoot, they showed great respect for each other. You see that great smile. He had the best laugh that I've ever heard in my life. And later on, I wanted to get his autograph. And those of you who know Bill Russell know he does not give autographs. And for some reason, he kept calling me Roy Johnson Jr. Every time he saw me, he'd say my whole name, Roy Johnson Jr. That's not my name. I'm not a junior. But you know what? I stopped trying to correct Bill Russell, but I was unrelenting in trying to get this autograph. I carried this cover around with me for a long time until finally he said, okay, just give it to me. And he signed it, Roy Johnson Jr. So this is a great treasure that I have, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to cross paths with Bill Russell. While we're on the NBA, let's say happy 94th birthday to Bob Cousy, another great Celtic. Again, a guy who it's interesting to see a color picture of Cousy, because usually you see the old grainy black and white footage. So happy birthday to him. And when I saw this, it made me think about who were my top 5 point guards of all time. So Edwyn, what about you? What are your top 5? What are your top point guards? Does Cousy make the list?
For me, top 5, he does not make the list. He obviously is top 75 of all time. He is one of the greats of all time, but I would not put him in my top 5, partially because I didn't watch him play. I know a lot of us tend to lean towards players who we watch play, but the number 1 point guard of all time, I did not watch play, Magic Johnson. I didn't watch him play. I would have John Stockton in my top 5 also, not saying I probably would have him 5th, because I have another player who I didn't watch play, Oscar Robertson. I have him at 2. 3, I have Isaiah Thomas. And 4 it's a little bit more tricky with 4, because some people have Chris Paul in their top 5. You know, some people have him there, some people have Jason Kidd. So it's a little bit more difficult for me. And again, John Stockton, the all-time leader in assists and steals. He did not win a championship. So I will put Jason Kidd. I'll put Jason Kidd at 4.
Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. This is this intergenerational conversation, and I forget that at 28 years old, born in 94, you didn't get to see Magic Johnson play. Of course, I helped cover his career, co-authored a book with him. And so he's on the top 5 of my list of point guards. Just changed the game, coming in at 6'9" and just dominating the game for a long time. And he and Oscar Robertson, they're really 1 and 1A as far as I'm concerned. Either one of them could share the top spot, so they are my top 2. I put Steph Curry up there. I'm surprised, you didn't put Steph Curry in your top 5. I put Steph Curry number 3, Isaiah Thomas. We agree on that on number 4, but I put Cousy as number 5. The man had 6 titles, 1 MVP, and a 13-time All-Star. I didn't get to see him play either, so I kind of look at the stats and just to see, how it ranks with others, the others that are in the mix. You mentioned Jason Kidd. John Stockton is another one that a lot of people put up there. Steve Nash is another player. All those are great players. But I want to give Bob Cousy his flowers, his roses right now, and put him in Roy S.J.'s top 5, along with Magic, Oscar, Steph Curry, and Isaiah Thomas. All right, moving on. The big news this week, and not unexpected, we actually talked about this on a Ballin episode not too long ago. Serena announces in Vogue magazine that she is evolving away from tennis after the U.S. Open. We mentioned early on, and I think I predicted that she would do this, that she would come to the U.S. Open and announce that would be her last professional tournament, similar to what Chris Evert did several years ago. Great player from that era, Serena, the GOAT. As far as I'm concerned, she's the GOAT. 23 Grand Slam titles, 1 short of the record of Margaret Court, who played before what's called the Open era. And Serena said in Vogue that she's doing this because she wants to grow her family, and then that she probably wouldn't have to do this if she was a man, because the man's wife would be at home growing the family, getting pregnant, and bringing that other child into the world. But as the woman, she has to do it. She loves motherhood, and she loved the prospect of giving birth. She said she was one of those happy pregnant women, even though she had a lot of complications at birth. Her daughter now is said her biggest dream was to be a big sister, so she wants to make that happen for her daughter. Wants to move on from life. She said it was sad. She said it wasn't a happy thing for her to have to walk away from the game. She also said she thinks in her mind she should have had 7 Grand Slam titles, and maybe she overthought it a bit as she got closer to the record, but gonna leave with no regrets. Let's talk a little bit again. Tell me what you think about this decision and what Serena means for you, someone who watched her maybe a little bit in her prime during your lifetime.
Yeah, I did watch her. I wasn't even a big tennis fan, but I watched her and her sister. Like you said, for me, they're the GOAT as well. I think she's the ultimate female athlete, and you can make that debate too. Definitely, I think the greatest tennis player of all time, top 10 athlete of all time, with Jordan, with Brady, with Ali, with Tiger. Again, 23-time major champion, second most by any player all time, 365 major match wins, most in women's tennis history, 4-time gold medalist. Everything is there, and it was done for such a long period of time, for a long stretch of time, like LeBron also. So I think that's a part of it too, and to still be able to do what she's doing with decline, of course, but still great in her early 40s too. At that, I think there's no question or no debate too. But she inspired just so many little black girls too, that they can accomplish the impossible too. At that, just with her father coaching her and her sister, King Richard, of course, and just doing it at such a young age, and then going to 41 years old too. At that, it's just one of those things that people of our skin color look at.
Yeah, and again, you're putting it so eloquently, and you gave all the stats to back it up. I love it. She is one of the greatest athletes of your era, somebody that you watched play, and you had that great list of the top 10 of all time. That's a great list. We're going to write that down and make a card out of it and talk about it in the future. Again, this is going to be like when Chris Evert retired in 1989. Every match she plays will be must-see TV. The crowd will be on her side, and hopefully she makes a long run. But if she doesn't, her legacy is made not just on the court, but off the court as well. Serena Ventures, she started a few years ago to become an investor in companies. So she's still continuing to inspire Black women and Black girls to not just achieve athletically, but to dream and achieve off the court and in business as well. So good luck to Serena at the US Open and beyond. She's going to continue to be a champion. So let's move on to the NFL. Kind of, it's not right big news, but O.J. Beckham is a free agent, won a Super Bowl ring with the Rams, and he's being recruited out there. So talk about what's going on with O.J. Beckham.
His former teammate Von Miller, who just signed a big deal with the Bills, is trying to get him to come there too and win another Super Bowl. With Josh Allen there too, and the weapons they have and the defense, that is a big possibility to do so. He is unsigned. He is a free agent still. I think the Cowboys probably are the best team for him to go to, sign him for 1 year.
And I love that, because the Cowboys, I'm a long-suffering Cowboys fan. But go ahead. I hope he does go to the Cowboys.
Yeah. He would be another addition to be a second or third receiver, another weapon, because I think Michael Gallup is going to be out for a couple weeks too. He is on injured reserve. They have another player on injured reserve too, so he just gives them another option, outside of CeeDee Lamb being the number one receiver. Now, he does not replace Amari Cooper. Let's be clear on that. He doesn't replace him, but to have another weapon to help in that, with him being gone, that does help too. The possibility of him going to Baltimore, I don't like that. The reason why I don't like that,
and that's your team. You don't want him to go to your team?
No, well, I'm going to explain why though. Odell is not, if this were the Odell of the first 3 to 5 years with the Giants that made that catch, I could understand that. But because he is not that player anymore, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think he's 30 yet too, because he's really not that old. But the injuries, I think a torn ACL, he is not the same player. So I'm not even just going to talk about the possibility of toxicity in the locker room. He's not the player he once was, to want the ball so many times and Eli doesn't throw the ball, he's getting a fit. But if you want to talk about that history, even not too long ago, him and Baker weren't getting along in the Cleveland locker room as well too, and that whole drama also. So you have that right there. But just the fact you try to put him as the number one receiver, because at this point we really don't have a receiver. We have a tight end. We have Mark Andrews is our number one passing threat at the tight end position. But to try to get it to a receiver who is not what he once was. If he was to accept his role to be smaller, then we could think about that. But you're not going to try to put the pass game on this one receiver who is not what he once was. Yes, he was, acrobatic at first, but he's not that anymore. So I just wouldn't even want to deal with that. I think we can get other receivers, but Dallas would be the perfect fit for him to add to be probably the third receiver at least. Maybe there are going to be times where he has little glimpses and he might seem to be the second receiver, but that's an extra weapon that you guys desperately need.
You broke it down so well. He's 29 years old, as you mentioned. He'll be 30 in November. With a Super Bowl ring and now coming off an ACL injury, you would hope there would be some humility there and that he would be better able to accept the role as a second or third receiver. But when someone has that dynamic personality, it's hard to make that switch. A lot of athletes just can't make that switch. So we'll see. The Bills are probably not a bad place for him, because the Bills are one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to go to the Super Bowl this coming season. And speaking of the Bills, let's talk about quarterbacks. You sent a great graphic that talks about 5 quarterbacks who need to make a Super Bowl run. And they listed Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, my guy in Dallas, Ryan Tannehill, and Kyler Murray. Do you agree with that these guys all have to make a Super Bowl run?
I don't agree with Ryan Tannehill. The reason being is because Tennessee has had the success they have, not because of him, and he is a good quarterback, but let's not get it twisted. He got that contract because of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is that team. He is that team. He is the best player on the team. They've had the success they've had for the past 3 years because of him. He's won MVP. He's had a rushing title. And even last year, he missed the second half of the season. He still finished top 10 in rushing last year. So that's one. Let's not make him to be any better than he is. Now, Dak, the contract that he got a couple years ago, the weapons that you still have, the run game with Zeke and Pollard, the offensive line that you have, CeeDee Lamb, they lost Amari Cooper. You still have receivers. Your defense has gotten a whole lot better with Michael Parsons and Trey Diggs on top of that. So there is pressure for him too. The coaching is iffy with the coaching, because if they lose in a wild card again or anything less than that, they're having some struggles, some bad losses. Mike McCarthy, I believe, will get fired, but there is pressure on Dak. With Kyler Murray, I think for right now, it's just about improving, getting your team better. He can throw the football. He's 5'10", he's smaller. Obviously, he's athletic, so there's the chance of getting hurt when he runs. At some point, though, because he's still young, but at some point there's going to be pressure for you to win a Super Bowl. You wanted this money, you were trying to hold out, you got it. So you have to produce. It may not be now, but within the next 3 to 5 years, he is going to have that pressure. With Russell Wilson, I think it is there for him, though. You wanted out of Seattle. Seattle did not necessarily want to get rid of you, but you didn't want to be there anymore. That was part of the issue. You're gone. You're with a new team. You're a fresh start. I think Russell is 32, 33 years old, so he still has a time to win another Super Bowl. Now you have to get him weapons. You have to get him a defense too, an offensive line. Denver, they have some players. They do have some players. But because you wanted out of a situation that pretty much we saw the decline for years and years in Seattle. Lost to the Super Bowl, bad decision, didn't give the ball to Beast Mode, Marshawn Lynch. He's gone slowly but shortly. The Legion of Doom is gone. Richard Sherman's gone. All those guys are gone. So, yeah, I think the number one quarterback to win a Super Bowl or needs to win it, pressure, would be Russell Wilson.
So that's interesting. We're pretty much on accord. I think the number one guy who really needs to make a Super Bowl run is Dak Prescott. I mean, this guy has been there for season his 7th season. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. So there's no question that the pressure is on Dak to make a Super Bowl run. Kyler Murray and you didn't mention Josh Allen. Both of those, I think Josh is in his prime. He's in his 5th season. Kyler Murray's in his 4th season, so he's right on the cusp of that. Josh Allen looks to have a great team around him. So I don't know if there's pressure on him to make a Super Bowl run because he's still relatively young. He's only 26 years old. But right now he's in his prime.
That's why I said there's no pressure on him yet.
Nope.
But
right.
The AFC, though, look at all the young quarterbacks in the AFC because you still have Joe Burrow. So Cincinnati's in the AFC North. Mac Jones is just going to get better. New England is going to get back to that point where they're damn near competing for the Super Bowl every year. But he's just going to get better. Then you have Lamar. Baltimore's going to have a better season this year. So you have Lamar. Then you still have to look at Trevor Lawrence. You still have to look at him too. So in the AFC, and then you have Justin Herbert with the Chargers on top of that, and Derek Carr. So that's a lot of competition right there. And it's not to say that all of those young quarterbacks are going to go deep in the playoffs every year, but those are guys that are between 21 and 26 years old that you're competing against regularly, and some guys you're playing 3 or 5 of those for every year. That's very difficult. That's a lot of competition.
So there's no question that the time is right for Josh Allen to make a run. Interesting discussion about the 5 quarterbacks that need to make a Super Bowl run. Let's make a quick cut to the NBA. You sent this great graphic with 5 players on it. Like, who would you cut? So the 5 players here are KD, Giannis, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden. I don't know. This is a no-brainer for me, but who would you cut?
It's a no-brainer for me. It's the same answer. James Harden, obviously. All those other guys are champions. All those guys are finals MVPs. All of those guys have had deeper playoff runs and more success in the playoffs. He has been to the Western Conference Finals a few times with Houston, with Chris Paul. They lost to Golden State, obviously, and then you just talk about the last couple years, and I don't want to blame everything on him in Brooklyn. Obviously, you could say a lot about Kyrie, of course, but just the playoff performance last year in Philly and trying to use Doc Rivers as a scapegoat and lie to say he didn't set up plays for you to score. So yeah, that just hurts him more. So obviously,
this is almost like a trick question for me. Of course, James Harden has to go on this list, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a lot to contribute. That perhaps next year, with a whole year under his belt now, with some time on that team, that he'll make a good be a good contributor in the Sixers. But on that list right there, nah, he's got to go. Right now, KD is a little shaky for me, but he's still got talent. He's still almost like a 7-foot guard. So he's still got the talent. He's got some injury issues that he's got to deal with. But on that 5 list, there's no question James Harden would be the one. All right, last subject today. We're going to talk about college football. I know this is one of your favorites. The preseason college coaches poll came out this week. No surprise that Alabama is number 1. But talk about this poll, these rankings. Even with the top 5, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, and Notre Dame. Hard to argue with those at this stage. But look at this whole rankings and tell me what surprises you see here and what upsets you might see coming in the wind.
Nothing right now really surprises me in terms of upsets. Not Ohio State. Alabama's not losing to Texas A&M this year. That's one. I'm just going to let you know that right now. Mm-hmm. Georgia 3 is absolutely right. They might lose to Alabama in the SEC championship, but other than that, they're going to be good again. Notre Dame 5, 6, or 7. No, independent, non-conference. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they will just be just a little bit short of it. Clemson being 4, I can understand that. I think they will get back to that point of being good and being a contender for the playoffs. I hope Michigan can be close, around 6, closer. We'll see. They always have ups and downs. So we'll definitely see with that, especially being in the Big Ten, having to beat Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State. So we'll definitely look at that. And then Michigan State is 14. I think they will be good. USC with a new coach is at 15. Kentucky's 21. I think they're going to be the second best team in the SEC East.
Okay. All right.
But Alabama is going to win it all this year. In my opinion, I think they're going to win it all. I think they're going to win the SEC. They might lose one game. One. They'll still be in there. And yes, they're going to – you don't have a year where they lose the previous year and they don't win the following year.
Yeah, I agree. It's a pretty solid ranking. The teams that I would say to watch out for, of course, you told me earlier you thought OU, our team, my team, because I grew up in Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner, was ranked a little high at number 10 with a new coach. Any team with a new coach, it's really hard to really make a significant, a strong pick for them. But I think they still have a lot of talent. He seemed to have kept it together after the departure of the coach going to USC and Utah. I mean, Utah's always showing up there like, okay, all right, Utah, show me something. Okay, I'll let you stay up there in the top 10 until otherwise. The team that I think is going to surprise people this year is Michigan State. They were 7-2 last year under Mel Tucker. They have developed a real toughness and a mentality. I'm going to predict, and we'll talk about it later on. I think they're going to upset Michigan this year. I think that Michigan State is poised to take that next step. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but certainly they're going to make a run. They're 7-2. I think they're going to make a significant run and beat Michigan this year. SC, they had a great recruiting class, but I'm not sure if they're a little bit high, but it's okay because the Pac-10, you never know. Pac-12, you never know what's going on out there. So that may be an okay spot for them. They're behind Utah, behind Oregon. So it's not too bad, but I think, they have big hopes out in LA for SC, the future Pac-10 member. So I think they may be a little high too soon. And yeah, Kentucky. All right, Kentucky. All right, now show us something. You said they're be number 2 in the SEC East.
Yeah.
Would love to see it. You always love to see new blood, reaching higher levels in a sport that's usually dominated by the same teams. All right, Edwyn, great episode, great topics as always. A lot of intergenerational stuff today, and I love it. You brought out the stats to really make the case on everything. So it's my pleasure. Looking forward to doing this again. Until next time, what do we tell people to do?
Keep balling.
That's right, folks. Love you. Peace.